His little brat is really something else. Just as he turned around to check if he was a boy or a girl, the maid nearby mistakenly thought the young master had wet himself, and before he could react, she pulled down his pants. The boy was stunned, and to ease the embarrassment, he tried to distract by eating, but after finishing, the maid hugged him tightly, which accidentally made him get aroused. Although he wanted to resist, his tiny 2.5-year-old body was powerless. However, thanks to her care, he learned a lot about this world. It turned out he was born into a noble family where his father had 2 wives. The first wife bore 2 sons, and the second wife bore him and his sister. But more than these facts, the boy was fascinated by this world of swords and magic. To use magic quickly, he learned to read in just 2.5 days, and even his parents thought he was a genius. However, they believed he was too young to study magic and insisted he wait until he was 5 and baptized at the church. Though he agreed outwardly, inside he was eager, and once back in his room, he casually tried magic and unexpectedly made the maid bump into him. Luckily, the maid was a natural airhead and didn't notice. Excited, the boy prepared to try again, but nearly set the house on fire. The maid was as easy to fool as before, but he didn't realize his sister had sneaked into the room. Great, no one saw. Turns out, the sister was an airhead too. After 2.5 weeks of study, the boy quickly learned the country's history. Especially upon learning of other races' existence, his excitement could not be contained. 2.5 years flew by, and soon the boy reached the baptism age, his first trip outside the home to see the world. To help him understand the feeling of receiving magic, his sister opened her attribute panel as a reference, but one attribute caught the boy's attention. It said her favorite was him. Seeing his sister's reaction, the boy feigned ignorance. Soon, they arrived at the church where 7 statues of God stood, representing the 7 divine pillars, and praying to them granted random divine protection. But as the archbishop finished his speech, the 7 statues suddenly shone brightly, and the boy found himself transported to the realm of the 7 gods. The god of life who controls reincarnation told him his death in his past life didn't match the script exactly. Although he had died saving a beauty and was killed by a villain, even if he had not helped, the criminal would have stumbled and been caught by citizens. This meant the boy had died needlessly and had inadvertently increased the criminal's sentence from 2.5 years to life imprisonment, which made him cry harder. The life god comforted him, saying he had done a good deed, and the earth gods entrusted them to reincarnate the boy into this world. Though a little regretful, the boy thanked the gods for preserving his past memories. The 7 gods admired his spirit and granted him various blessings, including some special ones that would require further testing to discover. Seeing time was short, the gods sent him back, and the statues shone with such dazzling light. His father eagerly wanted to check the boy's panel, but recalling the gods' sly smiles, the boy felt uneasy and ran off to a corner pretending to use the restroom. Opening his panel, he was stunned. 7 attributes were all at level 10, while normal people's top level capped at 5. If his family saw this, they might faint. Luckily, he found the creator god had left him a hidden ability. After some fiddling, he relaxed, yet he hadn't noticed some values he missed. Seeing the 7 blessings and over 300,000 magical power, his father was stunned. Even court magicians only had about 10,000. Moreover, the boy was only 5 years old now. Though his future was bright, if this leaked, the nation would view him as a threat. After his father ordered everyone to keep it secret, the boy returned to his room. The summoning magic book on his bed caught his attention. After all he had experienced, he only wanted to be healed by fluffy animals. So eagerly, he went outside to summon, but unexpectedly, a hairless minotaur appeared. Just then, his sister and a cat girl arrived, so the boy blocked them without hesitation, determined not to repeat the tragedy of his past life. Now, having studied magic, he fought with all he had, but lacking experience, his first attack failed. Fortunately, he had overwhelming magic power, and the next moment, a massive magic circle instantly killed the minotaur, though the boy fainted from exhaustion. Luckily, before passing out, he finally saw the fluffy creature he longed for. The next day at his birthday ceremony, his father asked about his dreams. The boy said he wanted to protect everyone's smiles by becoming an adventurer and meeting all kinds of people in different places. To help him improve, his father hired 2 adventurers as tutors, Ginny for swordsmanship and Tammy for magic. Their contract was for 2.5 years. Soon, they all went to the training ground to begin. Training began, and first up was swordsmanship. Ginny just wanted the boy to swing the sword a few times to check his talent, but the boy's moves left him utterly stunned. Even Tammy, watching from the side, felt the boy was far stronger than him, which Ginny absolutely refused to accept, so he decided to spar directly with the boy. The moment they clashed, Ginny was floored. This was clearly not the power a 5.5-year-old should have. Tammy guessed maybe the boy had already received the blessings of the 5 gods, and after the boy confirmed it, Ginny couldn't take it anymore and swapped out so Tammy could teach magic instead. Tammy didn't refuse, but just as he prepared to start with the basics, the boy said he'd already learned those from books and immediately demonstrated on the spot. All attributes, all types, and even the most powerful limitless chant magic. Tammy was dumbfounded. Just being able to use limitless chant magic at 5 years old was already unheard of, let alone mastering every element. This was next-level genius, like a cow flying a plane. Seriously insane. The 2 teachers realized they had nothing left to teach him. Seeing his teachers sweating from shock, the boy quickly handed them a towel, but this only stunned them further. They never imagined he also had an item box. People with this skill were as rare as phoenix feathers worldwide, but the teachers had grown tired of calling him a genius. Next, to prevent the boy from wrecking the house, the teachers decided to change venues, so they asked the Lord for permission to let him practice outdoors. After approval, they went to a wide-open field where Timmy told the boy to try ultimate magic. The boy casually threw 2 fireballs, and a 2.5-ton boulder exploded instantly, leaving a huge crater. Timmy was speechless. This went far beyond ultimate magic, but Ginny was even more amazed that the boy didn't seem tired at all, which meant his magic power was terrifying. As they talked, a noise sounded in the distance, and suddenly a killer rabbit attacked. Ginny got ready to fight, but the monster dodged and lunged at the boy instead. The boy didn't panic. He finished the rabbit in a single move and stored it in his item box, making Ginny envious. She said that when she had money, she'd get a magic bag. Though it wouldn't be as powerful, it would still have some storage effect, just expensive. With time before sunset, they decided to keep letting the boy gain battle experience. Timmy used detection magic to find where a few monsters were, and the boy got excited, asking how to use it. After learning, he tried it out and reported not just exact positions, but also the exact number of monsters, leaving Timmy briefly devastated. Ginny told him not to worry. You get used to it. When the boy was about to go deeper into the forest, Ginny stopped him, warning there were many powerful monsters inside and that every few decades monsters would swarm and attack towns. The boy agreed not to go for now, but in the future, who knew? Soon it was night, and the boy found that even though he'd only hunted a few rabbits during the day, his level had already reached 8. On closer look, he realized the gods had also given him another cheat skill. Experience gain increased 100-fold. If the country discovered this, being watched would be the least of his worries. He could end up on the chopping block. The next day, the teachers took him to the Adventurers Guild to accept some difficult subjugation quests. But then a tough guy with a strange hairstyle came over looking for trouble, insisting Ginny drink with him. His lackey understood what was up, but the boy couldn't stand the scene, so he went over and smacked the guy hard, making him roll on the ground in pain. The tough guy got up, trying to teach the brat a lesson, but tripped and fell again thanks to the boy. Then the guy, ready to fight dirty, grabbed a weapon and swung at the boy, but the boy dodged repeatedly and even performed a bare-handed blade catch right there. Truly impressive, and the problem was solved. Their relationship became much calmer. 2.5 years flew by, and soon it was time for parting. The boy remembered Ginny wanted a magic bag, so he prepared a gift for both teachers before they left, venturing deep into the forest for materials. He had no idea that what he thought was an ordinary strike looked terrifying to the soldiers, who thought a monster horde was attacking and rang the alarm, calling everyone to arms. The Lord, his father, led soldiers to fight monsters at night, but the boy was unaware of the chaos he'd caused. After collecting the materials, he teleported home, while his father arrived at the scene and was shocked by the giant crater, but when he saw a towel at the bottom, he instantly knew who was responsible. Soon it was the day to say goodbye. The boy gave Ginny and Timmy each a magic bag, saying the red one was made from blood knowledge demon material and the green from earth dragon. Both were stunned. These monsters needed at least an A-rank adventurer to defeat, and they were only D-rank, while the previous troublemaker was only C-rank. What shocked them even more was the boy revealing that the bag could hold his entire mansion. Ginny was speechless, since the one she wanted could only fit a carriage. That meant this bag was already a national treasure. If they walked around with it, everyone would target them. But the boy reassured them not to worry, because he'd set it so that if anyone besides the 3 of them took the bag, they'd have to endure a magic penalty. Hearing about the weight inside the magic bags, the 2 teachers felt this was beyond unbelievable. This could no longer be called a national treasure, but the boy still insisted they accept, since over these 2.5 years the teachers had taught him so much. Before the boy could finish his words, Ginny and Tammy both hugged him tightly, making his face flush red like a bubble teapot. After he expressed his deep thanks to his teachers, the 2 slowly walked off into the sunset. When the boy returned home, "Can you explain what happened?" Time quickly moved to the next day. Because he was the young master of a Count's family, attending the capital's debut party was an essential event, but as always, the unexpected happened. Using magic, the boy detected a battle happening 2.5 miles ahead. Several humans were surrounded by dozens of monsters. Though his father immediately ordered some soldiers to help, the boy felt they wouldn't make it in time. So under his parents' stunned gaze, he cast speed magic on himself and dashed forward like the wind. Just in the nick of time, he arrived and, in the blink of an eye, wiped out most of the monsters. Even the seemingly mighty spirit lord vanished into ashes before his flames. As he was about to check on the situation, the soldiers arrived, and seeing the young master there left them all speechless. The boy didn't bother to explain, instead using magic to heal the wounded soldiers. Soon, his father arrived, but when he saw the girl in the carriage, he lost his composure. One was the king's daughter, the other a duke's daughter. Although their bodies were unharmed, they were still frightened, so with their permission, the boy cast calming magic on them, and, amazingly, their fear and exhaustion instantly faded, even making them want to sing, dance, and rap. Because of this, the 2 girls became completely attached to the boy, and learning their destinations matched, insisted on traveling in the same carriage. At first, the boy wanted to refuse, but the girls clung to him tightly. Luckily, the resting stop soon arrived, but unfortunately, the girls insisted on pulling him to spend the night together, putting the boy's father in a tough spot. Seeing neither father nor son could win the argument, the boy reluctantly agreed, but the surprises weren't over. The girls wanted to get even closer and decided to push the three beds together. One side was the kingdom's princess, the other, the duke's daughter. The boy knew he wouldn't sleep a wink tonight, and sure enough, after another 2.5 days of this torture, the group finally arrived at the capital. Just as the boy tried to sneak away, a knight grabbed him and said they were off to see the king. The boy was stunned. Turns out, his heroic deed had already reached the king's ears, and even more, he'd defeated more than 50 monsters, including a high-level beastman general. The king granted the boy a baron title, several gold coins, and a mansion, sparking a buzz in the crowd. A nobleman stepped forward in protest, since granting a title at age 10 was unheard of, but the king's mind was made up, so the noble had to back down. Later, the king met with the group to thank the boy for saving the princess, joined by the cat-eared father of the duke's daughter. Facing this scene, the boy was at a loss, but the real shock came after. It turned out that their hand-holding and sleeping together in the carriage had already been exposed, which meant the girls couldn't marry anyone else now. Faced with this, the boy tried to signal his father for help, but his father ignored him, leaving him no choice but to accept, making the girls beam with happiness. The next day, the gods suddenly appeared, saying there was little entertainment in this world and hoping the boy could use his past life's knowledge to invent something fun. This was easy for the boy, so he rushed to the merchant guild and pitched the idea to the boss. After learning the rules of black and white chess, the boss immediately took the commission, and the boy asked him to make a sample, handing him a gold coin for the initial investment. The boss was shocked, but the boy just said money wasn't an issue. To his surprise, only 2.5 days later, the boss finished the sample, and after playing a game was convinced it would be a hit, eager to mass produce it. The boy agreed, but wanted a noble version and a commoner version so everyone could enjoy the game. The boss called him a genius, but asked about the cost, which would be high for mass production. The boy simply slapped down 5 more gold coins. Problem solved. Next was applying for a patent. By offering the item to the god of commerce, no one could copy it for 3 years. With a flash of golden light, the product vanished before their eyes. The boy realized the gods must have perfected it, and indeed, they had. The boy also asked for a luxury edition to gift the king at the debut event, nearly scaring the boss again, but with encouragement, the boss was honored. At the debut, 2.5 days later, the boy wandered the hall when a noble, none other than the one who opposed him earlier, caught his attention, with 3 little brats beside him, clearly his son and cronies. But the boy didn't care, because he had found a cute little wife, and because her outfit was so eye-catching, he couldn't help but praise her out loud. Amazing! Following the procedure, everyone had to meet the king, but when it was the boy's turn, he actually used pickup lines on the princess right in front of the king. Unbelievable. Thankfully, he was quick-witted and immediately took out the entertainment item he had invented, successfully shifting the topic. Although the king was a bit uncomfortable, this wasn't the right time for fun. He said they'd talk in detail later, just man to man. After the meeting, the boy's father was shocked too. Having 2 fiancées at age 10 was one thing, but now his son was inventing and selling entertainment products. He encouraged his son to spend more time chatting with kids his own age and then left with his mother. The boy felt he had a point. Doing all this at 10 was a bit much. Just then, his little wife came over, and since the king's daughter was busy socializing, he finally had the chance for a real conversation. But as they were getting close, 3 little brats came over. The chubby one in the middle thought his own status would make the duke's daughter come to him, but she coldly turned him down. He tried to blame the boy and challenged him to a duel, but the little wife clung even tighter, angering the chubby boy and making his friends want to teach the boy a lesson with magic. Another one tried to step up but failed, and as a third tried to join, the little wife finally lost her patience and revealed that the boy had been made a baron and single-handedly defeated over 30 monsters. The 3 little brats instantly dropped to their knees and slunk away in shame. The little wife guessed the boy had deliberately shown off to embarrass them and threatened to blackmail him into taking her on a date, or she'd tell the princess. Just then, the princess arrived and, hearing about the date, puffed her cheeks in jealousy, wanting more time with him too. The next day, the boy visited the grand villa the king had given him. Even though it had been abandoned for 2.5 years, with his incredible magic, it took just 2.5 seconds to make it spotless and even repair all the broken furniture. The maids who came to clean were stunned, and so were his family members. But his father felt something was missing. Noble homes always needed art, like armor or collectible figures. The boy got the hint and brought out a red dragon specimen, leaving the maids completely shocked and his father wide-eyed with fear. It was a disaster-class monster, one that even a group of A-rank adventurers might not defeat, yet the boy had taken it down 2.5 years ago. As his father was recovering from the shock, a scream came from his mother in the bathroom. Amazing! His father then explained that by tradition, nobles who acquire a new home must host a banquet for the other nobles. The boy's head hurt, but luckily the butler had already organized the guest list. Now all he had to do was prepare gifts and food. Since the world mostly used ceramic tableware, he crafted glass goblets with intricate patterns. For the meal, he chose hamburgers, and for drinks, sparkling wine. The maid's expressions said it all about the taste. 2.5 days later, the banquet began. Soon, the count and the little wife arrived. Even though the butler had warned them, seeing the red dragon specimen still gave them a scare. As most nobles arrived, the boy prepared to give a speech and toasted everyone present. As expected, everyone quickly fell in love with the taste of the sparkling wine. The Duke instantly adored the goblets. They looked like jewel boxes, and hearing everyone would get one for free, he was overjoyed. He didn't even need to taste the food to know it would be amazing. One look at the girls' faces told him it was delicious. The king soon arrived with his family and was immediately drawn to the goblet. One sip of wine and he exclaimed in amazement. It was his first time experiencing bubbles dancing on his tongue. He then tasted the boy's special hamburger, and it was so good that his taste buds felt like they were dancing. He wanted to give a score of 8.4 out of 10, since the boy himself was a perfect 1.6 out of 2. Even the princess tasted the flavor of love in her bite. Just then, the queen approached shyly, having found the bathroom sprayed water. Before the boy could explain, she demanded the palace get one installed right away, and the king was amazed. How could such a good thing exist without him knowing? He asked the boy to install one for him too. In front of all the nobles, the king then gave the boy the highest praise for his hospitality. Just then, the old noble who had opposed the boy's title showed up, mocking the size of the mansion and calling it a doghouse. The boy didn't respond, but quickly stopped the butler from saying anything. As expected, the moment the noble entered, he was so frightened by the disaster-class red dragon that he nearly peed himself. Even after the boy explained, the old noble wouldn't let up. Relying on his marquis rank, he insulted the other guests as low-class nobles, earning their scorn. Even after tasting the sparkling wine and secretly loving it, he stubbornly refused to admit it and did the same with the hamburger. The boy was furious, but the butler reminded him not to make trouble, since the man was a marquis. The boy realized he was right, so he came up with a clever plan and brought out 2 gifts for the marquis. The old noble loved them, but demanded the boy prepare 100 more, along with the recipe for the banquet dishes. The boy, he shook his head, saying he couldn't agree, while secretly using magic to track the king's location, then suddenly changed his tune, saying he could offer the marquis the greatest thing in their nation. The marquis was stunned, and under the king's scolding, he quickly made his exit. The clever little wife saw through it all. She realized the boy had deliberately set this trap. The next day, the boy just wanted to find a place to store monster materials, but as soon as he showed them, he scared the vice captain beside him senseless, since not only did he have powerful A-class monsters, he also had S-class disaster-level ones. Staring at a pile of 2.5-ton monster corpses, the vice captain began to question the boy's true identity, asking if he was a hero or a divine apostle. The boy was startled, insisting he was just an ordinary kid, and tried to slip away, but the vice captain grabbed him and dragged him to spar with the Night Order and meet their captain. The boy had no choice but to agree. At the training grounds, though the soldiers had heard of his heroics, most still thought he was just a little brat and not that amazing. In the first round, a burly man planned to let the boy attack first, and the boy didn't hold back. Seeing how easily he won, the boy thought he might have overdone it and tried to sneak away, but the vice captain was so excited, he suggested the boy take on everyone at once. Just as the battle was about to begin, an elf girl leapt down from the sky, the captain of the knights and a sword saint. She hugged the boy for comfort, then accused the vice captain of bullying a child. But when she realized the boy was the hero who defeated 30 beastmen alone, she suddenly changed, insisting on sparring with him herself. Before the boy could agree or refuse, she launched her attack, and soon the two were fighting evenly, stunning all the soldiers. The most outrageous part was the captain actually lost to this little brat. At that moment, she made a shocking decision. She wanted to marry him. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the boy, who was only 10 and had just met her. But the captain said not to worry, since as an elf she could live to 300, so her looks wouldn't change for a long time. Even so, the boy felt uneasy. This was not a decision he could make alone. The captain agreed, saying she'd get the king to arrange it. This scared the boy even more. If the king found out he had another fiancé, he'd surely get scolded again. But there was no escaping it. He was dragged to the king, who, upon hearing the captain's request, was stunned as well. To dissuade her, the king said the boy was already engaged to the princess and the duke's daughter, but the captain only became more determined, thinking the boy was a talent recognized by royalty and nobility alike, making her want to marry him even more. The king was left speechless, so he agreed, on the condition she get the boy's father's approval in writing. The captain had no problem with that, and immediately took the boy to the arena to write the letter. The king was floored. He never imagined even the kingdom's greatest sword saint would lose to a 10-year-old. The vice captain stepped up to mention the boy had reacted oddly when asked if he was a hero or a divine apostle, and the king started to wonder too. An old man suggested a test using a legendary Earth rank magic book. 2.5 days later, the vice captain noticed the boy looked exhausted since he'd spent all his time on dates, and the captain never let him go until she'd drained every bit of his energy. Plus, his status panel now showed the title of Sword Saint. Just then, the captain called out to him again, and as the boy tried to escape, the vice captain caught him and brought him to the king. The boy worried he was in trouble again, but the old man handed him the Earth rank magic book, written by the founding king himself. The boy was immediately interested, but never expected that only he could read it. It was in Japanese. That's when he realized he'd exposed his secret, and that the founding king, like him, was also a reincarnator. Pressed by the king, the boy realized there was no hiding the truth and confessed to having memories from his past life. This revelation shocked everyone, especially his father, who even doubted the boy was really his son. The boy reassured him this was true, and the gods had told him so at his baptism at age 5. This nearly scared everyone to death. Then the boy revealed his status panel, showing the title of Divine Apostle and 7 blessings at level 10, while normal people only ever got 1 blessing at level 5 at most. Now, the king was completely stunned, because anyone with that title would be worshipped worldwide, even by the king himself. But the boy said he didn't want that kind of life. He just wanted to live as a normal person, so he asked everyone present to keep his secret. The king agreed, but then made a little joke. Suddenly, the captain burst in, waving the boy's father's signed marriage approval, eager to marry the boy on the spot. Before anyone could react, she dragged him away for more dates, and soon their marriage news quickly spread to the princess and the duke's daughter. All the boy could do was keep apologizing. The duke's daughter didn't really mind, and the princess just gave him a warning. This little brat was really something else. While kids his age were still playing in the mud, he already had 3 girlfriends, and one was even the elven captain. Whenever he tried to study, the 2 girls would fight to invite him on dates, and whenever he finally had some free time, the captain would drag him off to practice swordsmanship and deepen their bond. This boring life finally wore him down, so he changed clothes and went to the Adventurers Guild. It was his 12th birthday, the minimum age for registering as an adventurer. After going through all the procedures, he finally became an official adventurer. Though his starting rank was only gatherer, he didn't care. As the receptionist congratulated him, 3 little punks came over. He was speechless at the all too familiar setup. The big guy in the lead tried to show off but was knocked over by the boy's stinky foot attack. His 2 lackeys got angry but were easily defeated. They were no match for the boy. When the big guy tried to cheat by drawing his sword, a tough-looking red-haired man showed up. The big guy recognized him and fled with his friends. The boy thanked the red-haired man, who suggested they share a drink together, impressed by the boy's moves. The boy, admiring the man's rank 1 adventurer card, was filled with envy, but the man explained that there were even higher ranks, S and SSS. As they chatted, the red-haired man's wife came over, and since they still had a quest, they left first. The boy also looked for a quest and spotted a goblin extermination request in the corner. No upper limit on the reward, which increased with the number of goblins defeated. He was thrilled, but as he took just 2.5 steps, the captain ran over and gave him a huge hug. Hearing he wanted to go on a quest, the captain threw her work onto the vice captain. After all, nothing was more important than her husband. The boy tried to slip away, but she grabbed him and dragged him straight into the forest. Using detection magic, the boy quickly pinpointed the goblin's location, but when they arrived, they found wounded villagers as well. The 2 split up. He healed the villagers while she attacked. In just moments, 3 goblins were slain, but before the captain could relax, a horde of goblins appeared. The boy immediately switched to God mode support, giving the captain incredible buffs. After wiping out the goblins, a huge group of lizard monsters suddenly appeared. The boy told the captain to evacuate the injured while he covered their retreat. A second later, an ice mountain appeared behind them, scaring the villagers out of their wits. Soon, the boy returned to the guild, and when the receptionist learned he'd soloed 30 lizard monsters, she was shocked. This was C rank difficulty. She told the guild supervisor, who instead of praising the boy, got furious and accused him of cheating, even threatening to revoke his card. The boy was devastated, but just then the guild master arrived. After hearing the whole story, the guild master recognized the boy's true identity, but didn't say it aloud. Instead, he had his little sister come in. Once she learned the boy was not only the hero who saved the princess, but also the fiancé of the kingdom's strongest knight captain, the supervisor immediately dropped to his knees in sweat. The boy didn't mind and didn't press further, and the guild master promoted him to C rank for convenience. The captain argued that wasn't high enough. After all, her husband had slain a disaster-class red dragon years ago, and his power far exceeded hers. The supervisor and receptionist were dumbstruck. This meant the boy was already the strongest in the land. The guildmaster decided on the spot to promote him straight to A rank, making future requests easier. The boy accepted happily, and the staff rushed to handle the paperwork. This whole scene was being watched by the 7 gods. The god of magic admitted the boy's power was outrageous, but the god of creation thought he needed to become even stronger, since the evil god Yalong's seal was about to break, bringing the world to the brink of disaster. The gods decided he needed a master, and just happened to know the right person, currently idle at home. Meanwhile, the boy was still overjoyed with his gold card. The next day, the 2 girls thought they'd finally get to go on a date with him, but just then, the boy was asked by a teacher to casually cast a spell as a test. Even using just 1,000th of his power, he blew up the school's wall, leaving the other test takers and even the teacher in shock. The teacher quickly told everyone to move to the next room and checked to make sure nobody was hurt. The boy felt a little guilty and resolved to keep a low profile from now on, but trouble kept following him. The next examiner turned out to be a top adventurer sent by the guild, and even the red-haired man was there. When the man saw the boy, he was shocked but immediately volunteered to be his opponent. The boy wanted to refuse, but the teacher wouldn't allow it, so their battle began. Since the man was a top-tier adventurer, the boy didn't hold back at all. Right from the start, he used his body's full strength, rushed forward with physical enhancement, and seeing how strong he was, the red-haired man decided to get serious too. The other candidates were left in shock, unable to even follow their movements. Realizing the boy was even stronger than the examiners, the red-haired man sped up his attacks and used his own physical enhancements. The boy was impressed and thought to himself, thank goodness for the divine cheats. Otherwise, any other candidate would have ended up with broken bones. Even the teacher couldn't stand watching, so he called a halt, pointing out that if the fight continued, the other candidates would be left with a psychological shadow. The red-haired man agreed, but what he looked forward to most was teaming up with the boy for quests in the future. With that, the exam ended. The next day, the king found the boy and demanded to know why he showed off so much in the exam. The boy hurriedly explained it was because the teacher said the school's magic barrier meant there was nothing to worry about, so he only used beginner-level magic. But the wall still shattered. If he'd used higher-level magic, the teacher and other students would have been in real danger. The king was stunned, but what confused him most was that neither the princess nor the duke's daughter saw the boy at the exam. Only now did the boy realize he'd gone to the wrong entrance. There was a noble path and a commoner path, and he'd accidentally taken the commoner path. The king was speechless, thinking if the boy can't even find the right door, what would happen when he gets married? The boy could only keep apologizing. Time flew by, and on the day grades were released, the boy unsurprisingly ranked first in the whole school. At the entrance ceremony, his two fiancées finally got to see him, and he looked so handsome in his uniform that both girls praised him at once. The other boys in the back were definitely jealous. Then came the freshman speech. As the top student, the boy couldn't avoid it, but thanks to his previous life's experience, public speaking was as easy as slicing vegetables. But as always, the unexpected happened. The king actually showed up, saying some students were especially impressive this year and reminding him to keep a low profile. The boy broke out in a cold sweat, and even his parents curled their toes in embarrassment. Next came course selection. The boy picked all combat-related subjects, the princess chose internal affairs to help manage their future territory together, and the duke's daughter chose business for the same reason. At break, the boy saw 3 bullies picking on a cat girl just for being a commoner who had gotten into the school. When he heard them telling her to drop out, the boy got angry and taught them a lesson. The chubby bully tried to escalate by threatening to have his father destroy the girl's family, but the two fiancés stepped in. After all, when it comes to family backing, the princess easily wins. The 3 bullies quickly apologized to the cat girl and slunk away, and the grateful cat girl thanked the boy, who told her not to worry and to come to him if she ever needed help. Of course, his two fiancés overheard and insisted he stick to his word. As the 3 were happily chatting, a mysterious voice reached the boy's ears, a voice only he could hear. It was the teacher the gods had arranged for him. Following the instructions, the boy went to the library and found himself in another space, his body magically transported inside. Faced with this bizarre scene, the boy was stunned. There was coffee in another world. He asked who the stranger was, but the mysterious man just called him by his past life name. This little brat really was something. Blessed by the 7 gods, by age 10 he had become the strongest in the country, but the gods still saw 2.5 times more potential in him, so they'd arranged for an even more amazing master. This person was not only also from Earth, but was the first king of this world and the very one whose party sealed away the evil god 300 years ago. Unfortunately, that seal was weakening, and as the master had since become a god in another world, he could not intervene directly, so the task of saving the world now fell to the boy. Even more coincidentally, the evil god's story was also linked to the boy's past life. Before he could ask for more details, the master whisked him away to the ocean, announcing that only after enduring a brutal trial and reaching level 600 would he answer all of the boy's questions. The boy was speechless. He was only level 300 now, and everyone would panic if he disappeared for too long. The master had already considered that. Here, 1 year was only a day outside, so he left the boy to train while he went to have tea. With no choice, the boy charged into the forest, and within just 2.5 minutes, dozens of monsters surrounded him. There was no rest, not even sleep, and he kept this up for 2.5 months, until he was finally at his limit. At that moment, he heard the cries of a little wolf. At first, he wanted to put it out of its misery, but as he raised his hand, memories of his own heroic acts flashed before him, and he realized he was about to lose the most precious thing he had, the kindness to protect others and cherish life. Using up all his remaining magic, he healed the little wolf and immediately collapsed from exhaustion. When the boy woke up, he found that not only was he alive, but the little wolf had actually saved him. Seeing that both he and the wolf were alone, the boy decided they would train together and named him Xiaobai. It was Xiaobai's companionship that gave him the determination to keep going. 4 years passed in a flash, and finally, the boy reached the hut where he'd started his journey. His master was pleased, but even more impressed when he realized the little wolf was actually a Fenrir, a legendary beast. On his master's advice, the boy formed a contract with Xiaobai so he could summon him anytime. He thought his training was over, but his master summoned another man, Doran, and told the boy he'd have to defeat Doran before returning home. Even though the boy had reached level 600, he was still no match for this man and was knocked out in a single round. He woke up at Doran's house where Doran's wife had already prepared dinner and found a baby dragon under the stairs. Xiaobai got jealous, but it didn't last long as dinner was served, and after 4 years of wilderness survival, a real meal tasted heavenly. 2.5 months later, the boy could finally spark far evenly with Doran, eventually progressing from being carried on his back to walking home by himself, but he still felt it wasn't fast enough. During his first trial, his master had revealed his true origins. In this world, there were originally 8 gods, and the evil god, once the god of games and entertainment, had turned his domain into a death game for innocence and was banished. The boy's master was summoned from Earth at that time, and although he ultimately sealed the evil god, it was only thanks to the sacrifice of the boy's parents. At last, the boy broke through his limits, and after finally defeating Doran, his special training neared its end. Before leaving, he visited his parents' graves, and his master told him how much they had always worried about him. The boy finally broke down in tears, and his master, as before, brought out some cookies. The boy instantly understood and snatched the cookies without effort, making the master smile with relief. It was time to return home, but first, he needed to change back to his usual form. His master suggested taking Xiaobai along, as well as Doran's little dragon. After signing the contracts, the boy activated his teleportation magic, but his master called out, asking him to deliver a sword to the old king. The boy agreed, then teleported home, where the maids burst into tears at his return, and his 2 fiancés finally breathed a sigh of relief. During his absence, they had learned to bake cookies, and the boy was so moved he cried, but this gentle peace was only temporary. The next day, the king summoned the boy. When he learned that the boy's master was not only the god of creation from another world, but also the first king of this kingdom from 300 years ago, the current old king was stunned. By all rights, the master should have passed away long ago, but when the boy took out the ancient royal sword, the old king finally believed it. The count reminded the boy that while he was away, the Adventurers Guild had sent several notices, and if he didn't finish a quest soon, his card would be cancelled. The boy was stunned and hurried to the guild to take a mission to subdue a bandit group. With flight magic, he quickly found their location, but was shocked to see his old friends surrounded, his teachers Ginny and Tammy, whom he hadn't seen since he was 5.5. Seeing Ginny wounded, he grew angry, healed her, ignored the bandits' mocking laughter, and brandished the ancient king's sword, defeating the bandits in no time. Ginny and Tammy had expected his strength but were still shocked and rushed to the guild to report. The receptionist was stunned that the boy completed the quest in 2.5 minutes. She'd never seen anyone so fast. Just then, the troublemaker from years ago, with his 2 sidekicks, began pestering Ginny and Tammy again, but the moment they saw the boy, they froze, remembering the lesson he'd taught them before. Their butts ached just thinking about it. Luckily, the red-haired man and his wife arrived and, after learning the truth, realized the boy had saved his little sister. They all decided to celebrate with a drink, and the red-haired man was shocked to hear the boy was now a top-ranked adventurer. His wife, seeing the dragon hide bags the 2 women carried, asked the boy to make her one too. He agreed, and she, tipsy, promptly fell asleep. The red-haired man didn't mind, knowing his wife was just being playful. The next day, as the boy prepared for class, he found that every teacher had blacklisted him, simply because he was too amazing, and banned him from using magic on campus. He would automatically receive credits for all his courses. 4 students noticed this and thought he was being bullied, so they decided to help by showing off their own skills in a construction class, planning for the boy to show off last and become the class hero. But dreams are beautiful and reality is harsh, but when it was finally the boy's turn, the end of class bell suddenly rang, forcing the battle to stop, and he felt so frustrated. Worse was yet to come, because he'd blasted a giant hole in the school earlier. Repairs cost a whopping $790,000, leaving the school's budget crippled and unable to hire adventurers as instructors for a long time. The boy nearly broke down in tears. To vent his anger, he slipped into the monster forest at night, where even disaster-class dragons fell instantly before him. Using fire magic, he caused such a spectacle that the guards thought the Demon King had returned, but when the Lord arrived, all he found was a giant crater with the boy's handkerchief left behind. This little brat was incredible. While other kids summoned little mice, birds, or rabbits, at most someone might summon a 2.5-meter husky, if a summoner was too weak, the monster would just leave. But the boy was different. What he summoned wasn't even a beast, but the Demon King himself. Realizing something was off, the boy quickly threw a flash bomb to blind everyone's eyes. The Demon King was stunned, not expecting a mere human as his summoner. With a single look, he saw through the boy's stats, and the boy realized his abilities were being scrutinized. While he didn't intend to fight, he ended up forming a contract with the Demon King, since if the king stayed much longer, everyone else would be blinded for life. When the magic circle faded, the teacher was left in shock, having just heard someone say Demon King. The boy hurriedly explained that it was just a demon, and they hadn't formed a contract. The teacher let it go, but before the boy could relax, the king found out anyway. Under repeated questioning by his father-in-law, the boy finally confessed. The Demon King, stunned, knew that if he went berserk, the entire capital could be destroyed in an instant, so the boy apologized again and again, not realizing that once magic was injected, the contract would activate. This reminded the king of something. He told the teacher to keep quiet about what he'd seen, then called everyone to witness the boy's ridiculous stats. Everyone was utterly shocked, even the king worrying the boy might one day destroy the country. He really had become the world's strongest. The boy just wanted to be treated normally, and the king agreed, but on one condition. He would promote the boy to Viscount and give him him a town, and if he managed it well, he'd formally become his son-in-law. After all, how could someone who couldn't protect a town protect the entire nation? But just 2.5 days later, the butler brought bad news. Monsters were overflowing in his home forest, and even the adventurers were suffering heavy casualties. The boy hurried deep into the woods with his 2 divine beasts. He always felt like he was being watched but couldn't find the source, so he summoned the Demon King, who sensed a sinister aura deep in the forest. Not only were there many monsters, but all were high level. Still unsatisfied, the boy asked for more information, so the Demon King summoned a subordinate skilled in scouting. Seeing that the mysterious elder was just an ordinary-looking human, the old man guessed the boy's identity wasn't simple. When he learned the boy was a divine apostle, the elder instantly knelt and began his investigation. Moments later, S-rank monsters began to appear throughout the forest, and the boy quickly flew over and wiped them out in a flash. He left his companions on standby and rushed back to town to inform everyone. All his old friends were at the guild, and after they heard about the forest, everyone's faces grew grim. Then, the elder made a shocking discovery. Deep in the woods, someone was warning them to stay away. It was the evil god from 300 years ago. Seeing tens of thousands of monsters attack at once, even the Demon King panicked and teleported to the boy. After exchanging info, the boy told everyone to gather adventurers and defend the town, while he headed into the heart of the forest. As they reached the gate, his captain wife came running, missing her husband after so long, and wanted to go with him, but he insisted she stay to protect the city and their home. Meanwhile, the elder was rampaging in the forest, and soon the boy and the Demon King arrived to help clear monsters. As they fought, the boy sensed a powerful aura ahead. It was the evil god Yalong, eager to face a divine apostle. This little brat was beyond belief, not even an adult, yet already a demigod. With a flick of the wrist, even basic spells shook the heavens, and demon kings were lining up to be his lackeys. But the evil god, bent on world destruction, used the monster horde to wipe out humanity. Even with all his might, the boy couldn't handle such a massive force alone, so he asked the adventurers and the Demon King to take care of any that slipped through. The Demon King summoned his 4 heavenly kings, who, though stunned, pledged their full support when they learned the client was a divine apostle. Meanwhile, after clearing most of the monsters, the boy finally faced off with the evil god for the first time. Since the seal wasn't completely broken, the evil god could only attach to a black dragon for now. Then, as the evil god battled the boy while endlessly summoning monsters, trying to use overwhelming numbers to break through the city gates, the boy realized he needed to end things quickly. He summoned his divine beast Xiaobai and the little dragon, and although their teamwork initially worked, it was no match for the evil god's furious rampage. Seeing this, the boy jumped in to help, flashes of precious memories racing through his mind, and this surge of feeling awakened his true power. Light erupted, an unbelievable celestial pillar that stunned everyone. But in truth, the evil god had already turned to ash at the start, though the boy, not knowing, kept powering up. Thanks to Xiaobai, the dragon, the Demon King, and the old man, he finally realized he'd gone too far. With their help, the town's crisis was resolved. The remaining monsters retreated, and the boy became the hero who saved everyone. Yet even the king was left in a daze, as most people believed that pillar of light was a sign from the gods. The boy could only keep apologizing, then honestly admitted he'd unleashed advanced magic and called on the Demon King for help. The king was once again shocked, or maybe just used to it by now, but still rewarded the boy, publicly granting him a viscount title and a fief. But when the boy went to inspect his new land, he found out his father-in-law had given him a real challenge. The area was actually under the control of the Adventurers Guild. Fortunately, with his absurd strength, it took him only 2.5 days to become the boss there. Just when he thought he could finally live in peace, the Demon King showed up again, this time with his wife in tow, who was furious after catching her husband cheating and demanded the boy's help. Instead, the Demon King got a thorough scolding, and even the princess and duke's daughter joined in, making the Demon King's wife cheerfully drag her husband home to settle accounts. Not long after, the boy used his construction magic to build a castle rivaling even the old king's, leaving his 2 little wives completely amazed.